Hello, welcome to another episode of History in the Dark. I am your host, Darkness the Curse, and before we begin, as always, thank you so much to my generous patrons, my British rail critics, and of course, my underwater train finders, Thomas Ward, Lord Captain Von Thrust III, Some Dude 267, Longsight, Joshua Long, Ohio Trucker 1, Royal Hudson 2860, Lord Hoth 444, Arthur Roy, and Benjamin Owens. You are the reason why this content remains in Mortal Kombat. And yes, today it is time for the next part of the Roundhouse Rumble, baby! And yes, I know everyone's been sitting there in relatively quiet anticipation to know which locomotive has come out on top and who will be moving on to the final battle of our US versus UK tournament. Will it be 611 or 4014, or will it be the Flying Scotsman or the Black Prince? Let's find out. Starting with, of course, 611 and 4014. And the voting was not nearly as close as I personally was hoping. I'll be real with all of you right now. If I were straight up biased, I'd say 611 is actually the best locomotive currently in America when it comes to overall performance and flexibility, as well as just looking good. She's the queen of steam, she's beautiful, but apparently I am in the minority, because based off of the votes, 4014 has come out on top. But that's not the only thing we have to consider. As always, I have to go into other categories. 611 has a much more vibrant story than 4014. Whereas 4014 simply sat in a museum for a while, 611 has gone in and out of service repeatedly over the course of the years, as well as suffering 2 accidents that weren't her fault, but she immediately recovered from. In terms of flexibility and top speed, 611 definitely beats 4014, but 4014 rules over when it comes to sheer, unspeakable power. 4014 is a big boy, and then we also have to consider 4014 has international notoriety. Whereas 611 is well known in America, 4014 has international acclaim as a big boy, an operational big boy. But is that enough to beat out my personal favorite choice of this tournament, 611? I gotta go with 4014. I know I said the popular choice here was not going to be the only thing I consider, and that's true, but I really can't argue with the differential when it comes to voting. It's not really that close, and 4014 again has the international acclaim to deal with. People know what a big boy is. People recognize 4014, not just in America, but all over the world. 611 is famous, but only regionally. People outside of the United States aren't as familiar with her, so even though she's the queen, I guess we gotta go with the king. So Union Pacific Big Boy 4014 moves on to our final bracket, but there's still one more battle to deal with, and that's of course the Flying Scotsman versus the Black Prince. And I really just want to know why the Flying Scotsman keeps absolutely wrecking it when it comes to the popular decisions here. Once again, we have a landslide situation where the Scotsman has destroyed the Black Prince in terms of popular acclaim. But I guess it kind of makes sense, because kind of like 4014, the Scotsman has international fame. Not only is he well known across the world, but he has even made trips across the world. So it kind of makes sense why more people would be eager to see the Scotsman move on, even though in terms of performance, as an older model steam locomotive, he definitely can't hold a candle to the Black Prince. As a 9F, the Black Prince is arguably the best steam locomotive that the UK ever created, period. Top speed, power output, tractive effort, the 9Fs are sensational, and the Black Prince definitely fits into that category. Fun facts about the Black Prince. He was number 92203, and he was built by Swindon Works and delivered on the 6th of April, 1959. He only had a working life of less than 9 years, and was withdrawn in November of 1967. He's notable as pulling the last steam-hauled ore train, also in November of 1967. He was purchased directly from British Rail by artist David Shepard for €3,000, and then he was moved to the Longmoor Military Railway. He was the one who named him Black Prince. That name was not carried by him while he was under British Rail. He was only known as 92203. When the Longmoor Military Railway closed, Black Prince was moved to East Lye Depot, and then in 1973 to the East Somerset Railway, where he remained until 1998. He visited several other heritage railways in the area, and in September of 1982 he hauled the heaviest freight train in Britain, 2,198 tons, at Foster Yeoman's Tor Works. He was overhauled at the Gloucester-Warwickshire Railway in 2004, and worked there until 2011. Then he was moved to North Norfolk Railway and re-entered service in 2014 after receiving an extensive overhaul. He was purchased by that railway in 2015 and has remained there ever since. So as you can see, not only does the Black Prince win out over the Scotsman in terms of performance, but he has a pretty interesting story to go along with him. The real question is that enough to meet the legendary status of the Scotsman? Especially when the popular vote clearly suggests otherwise. Man, I cannot stop the Scotsman in this tournament. This was a difficult choice for me, I'll be honest. I really wanted the Black Prince to win, but I can't argue with those votes. I can't argue with the Scotsman international acclaim. Since this is a US versus UK tournament, we have to acknowledge what locomotives do other countries outside of the two involved here know about. And out of all the choices in the tournament, the only ones I can say for sure that other people are aware of are 4014 and the Scotsman. So the Scotsman moves on to our final battle. Big Boy 4014 versus the Flying Scotsman, the top tier preserved steam locomotives from both the United States and the United Kingdom. Who will win in this epic tournament? This epic final conflict between the two juggernauts of the railways. Find out next week, and until then, this is Darkness, and I bid you all a fond farewell.